So let's do that. This is so fun for me to have like different people from different groups, and it makes me really excited for the retreat.
Yes, I keep forgetting about that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I
so
mean, I think it's going to happen. Thank you so much, all of you. I'm going to have you introduce yourselves in just a moment, but first I just want to name that this is different. I'm very like intentional at this our circles being anonymous and confidential, and that has made marketing and promoting Front Porch Circle a bit tricky. And so my husband, who owns a marketing agency, has tried to get me to record some sort of roundtable discussion about Front Porch Circle and what you experience. And I've avoided it because I just didn't, that felt weird and wrong. I know you all, and some of you know each other. Karen and Hadley know each other a little bit. I would love for you all to just introduce yourselves and um, maybe, if you want to tell us the part of the country you live in, however specific you want to get, is great. And how you came to Front Porch Circle. What drew you? What was happening that was the catalyst to encourage you to jump on a Zoom call with a bunch of strangers? Joan, why don't we start with you?
Okay, well, my name is Joan, and I am from Washington State, and um, I am married to a man who was a teaching elder at our church for many years, and that was I didn't know that was going to be our life when I married him. Our senior pastor had passed away, and then my husband moved into the role of co-pastoring for several years. Anyway, so we were there for 23 years, and over the years, things were accumulating that I didn't know what to do with. And my policy was to just stuff them away, don't deal with it, just keep moving. But Leah and I were friends in college, and she posted on Facebook. I actually looked it up yesterday, that original post where she had said, "I'm starting this thing called Front Porch Circle for pastors' wives." And I messaged on there. I said, "This sounds like such a great and very needed ministry, and I'm so glad to hear you're doing it." But my husband wasn't a senior paid pastor, and so I didn't think I could do it. But I was like, I would love, if there was ever anything like that I could be part of, I would love to do that, because I knew I needed to work through. There was a lot that needed working through. But so that's how I heard about Front Porch Circle, and Leah said she would let me join, even though I wasn't fully qualified.
You got the college friend grandfathered in.
That's right. Yeah. Got to pull some strings and get into the group. So that's how I heard about it.
Yeah. Hadley?
Hi, I'm Hadley. I live in South Carolina. Really interesting, and I guess I just think of kindness when I think of how I came to Front Porch Circle. So there was actually a lady at our church. At that point, my husband had been in his position for, oh gosh, not even a year. I mean, he had really just started. It hadn't been too long, but there was enough that I had already felt like, wow, there's a lot to navigate here, and I don't necessarily know what to do with it. So there was a sweet lady at our church who had another friend who had participated in Front Porch Circle, and she offered, like, knowing what a benefit it was to her friend, she offered to like gift it to me for a year. And so like, by her grace and kindness, of course I was like, yeah, I didn't necessarily know what I was getting into, but I knew that I needed some support and level of understanding in this area that seemed like I couldn't find anywhere else.
Sandy or Sandra? It's Sandra. Right. Sandy.
I answer to it all. My name's Sandra. I'm in Colorado, and my husband has been a pastor, senior pastor for 12 years. We've gone through ups and downs, COVID and after COVID, there's a lot of reorienting I was doing in my own life. And this was one of the subsequent areas that I needed to like figure out. There's just not having anyone to talk to about all the things that you go through, having lost friends. And I mean, just to share some of those experiences with somebody else in a safe place that you could talk about these things where, there's not really anyone else to talk to other than my husband, and he's got enough he's carrying. So I went on extensive Google searches to try to find, surely there's a group of like pastors' wives somewhere. And there's not a lot. Anyway, and eventually Google brought me here to Front Porch Circle. So that's my story. Yeah.
And it made my day when I got her submission form. And she was like, I was looking on Google and I thought, oh my goodness, that is something. That is something else. And Sandy, you waited for a while for a circle because I didn't have a new one yet. And so we prayed for her and you got some friends. And then we kicked you guys off. Yeah.
And even that worked out exactly how it was needed,
We had some individual
sessions.
sessions.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen. I live in Central Illinois. My husband has been pastoring to some extent or another for, I think, like 16, 18 years. Started off in college. But we've been married through seminary and through navigating all of that, and him being in his senior pastor role that he's been in for 7 years now. And being a young mom and new to this role as pastor's spouse in a really lovely, loving, wonderful church, there's still a whole lot to navigate and lots of stressful situations. And I found Front Porch Circle through my brother and my sister-in-law. My brother used to work with Leah's husband, and we were all out on one of his work trips near the beach, and I had the opportunity to meet Leah, my sister-in-law, as she and I were talking, just kind of sharing my heart with her and just how unique this role felt. She said, I need to connect you with Leah. And I think I cried the first time I hugged you. I just started crying.
You did. It happens. People just see me and they burst into tears. It just happens.
But just to find somebody who cares enough about this role and people, and to have formed a space for us to come and be shepherded and guided through this whole process, just felt so right. I think this role as pastor's wife or pastor's spouse, there's just nothing else like it. And to feel almost like you're in a fishbowl somewhat, even if you're surrounded by people you love and care about, it's different. And to feel like I kept feeling like I was kind of behind the scenes, taking in a lot of the stress that my husband would bring home and not having any of the ability to act on things in the same way that he had. And so to be kind of like helpless in that situation almost was a different feeling for me. And so to be able to come here and talk about all of that with you all, amongst all of the other things in our lives that we get to talk about and share, it's just been amazing.
I'm watching all the heads nod. I want to voice too. I mean, I hear the caution in all of your words, and that makes complete sense. And I want that because this is recorded to go, you don't know all the people who are going to listen to it. So I appreciate that. I value that and expected that. And I think I want to say to potential parishioners or church members who might watch this video, I hope they do. I want to say, in my experience, one thing I have learned is what the pastor's wife needs personally, especially in times of struggle or suffering or questions or stress or marital happenings or kid happenings or church happenings. It doesn't matter how wonderful the parishioner is. It doesn't matter how wonderful the church is, how loving the church is. There is so much overlap. It is impossible for the pastor's wife to be 100% open and honest in ways that we all need to be and have a place to say all of our words and be completely seen. So it doesn't, because we all need this space, does not mean that the church has failed somehow. It's just a result of the brokenness of the world. How many women talk to their friend, their person in their community, and have to, in the back of their mind, know they're also sort of talking to their husband's boss. They're talking to their husband's client. They're talking to their husband's coworker. Like it's just so much overlap. So I want to name that. How has being in your circles changed your perspective on life, on church, on family, emotionally, um, spiritually, neurologically? We talk a lot about what is happening in our brains, um, and what that means for our bodies. So yeah, I'm curious, what has being in circle changed in your thoughts and how you live your life?
I'll go first.
Yay, Joan. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I think the thing that comes to mind first, which I already referred to a little bit, was that before, if I was upset or sad or hurt or resentful or um, afraid or any of those things, I would be like, the emotions don't matter. Put those away. We just need to keep doing, be faithful, do what we need to do, and, talk to the Lord about it. But, don't really try not to pay too much attention to it because it needs to not rule your life. And I think something for me that has really changed and been so helpful is that now, if there is something that causes this emotional upswell in me, instead of just trying to tamp it back down, I think, well, what happened? Like, what was that? So just that encouragement to be curious about what's causing the strong emotions has been so helpful, not only in my healing and working through things that had accumulated over the years, but also like in my relationships, in my family. I mean, with my husband and my kids, but then also like my parents and my siblings, when those things come up. And it's been just fascinating to see as it would kind of, as I say, well, what happened? And then I look at what happened. And Leah often says, where did you feel it in your body? Which I thought was really weird at first.
It
But
is weird. It's a little weird.
yeah, and it's really amazing how God has created us, though, that those where you feel it in your body, when you realize where that is and that it's related to this particular emotion. And anyway, it's helped me really untangle a lot of things that were frustrating for so many years because I would get this um, reflexive response and then just turn away from it and keep going until the next time it, came
Mhm.
up. So I just feel like I'm much more peaceful and not so afraid of strong emotion or conflict, even like if one of my kids it has a strong reaction, I'm like, so, what's going on with that? Instead of being like, "Ugh," everyone shut down and be quiet and go about your business. So
Yeah.
that's been like the major change for me, I think.
That's such a great answer. I know at various times in different circles, we've had to remember that a specific emotion isn't automatically sin. I mean, I think I've heard everybody in all the circles at some point, try to say, oh, but that I shouldn't be anxious, or I shouldn't, or that's probably sin, or that's probably pride, or that's probably selfishness. And you know what? Maybe it is. I'm not the Holy Spirit, but we're not going to turn from that sin unless we're also asking, what is the longing that is driving that sin? Or that I'm responding in a sinful way. I need to dial in and see what is the desire that is not being met. Because that's sanctification. Like that's just the process. Okay, but y'all all know that. I'll get off my soapbox. Karen, do you have some thoughts about that?
I do. So your question made me think about the way I respond to a variety of things in my life right now, for better or for worse. I've been able to kind of track things back to my younger years to understand why I respond the way I respond, or why I do things the way I do them. And being able to make those connections has made such a huge difference in the way I understand myself and my family and those around me. And it gives me more curiosity, like you said, Joan, and more gentleness toward myself and others. Um, the connections have really helped, and it's so interesting. Anytime that that something kind of bubbles up and we talk through it, I'm always surprised, and I shouldn't be, but I'm always surprised at how closely that tracks back to when I was younger and the way that X, Y, or Z happened. And I think it's really cool. And also like it gives me like a bit of a playbook to help myself understand and change patterns and change habits.
It is such a beautiful moment. I mean, I think we're thinking of the same moment, but it is a beautiful moment when you bebop into your one-on-one and we're just chatting and you're like, yeah, I don't really even have anything, and then we something, whatever comes up, whatever comes up to discuss and be curious about. And that's exactly the right approach, without judgment or shame, just to be curious. And then we go through the process of thinking about where it's coming from. There is so much healing that we often need to give space for before we can actually deal with what's happening today. Thank you, Karen. Hadley.
When you first asked that, I was thinking about just coming in, like very first time, like coming into the circle. And Leah, you set like a very clear tone of, obviously your husband's job is important, but that's not what this circle is about. We're not here to talk about what they do and kind of get into, all of the different situations or frustrations of that. We're gonna look at, the person who's right here. And I think kind of going back to, I think something Joan was saying, but we kind of get to like the root of what we're looking at, like inside of what is the longing, what is the desire. And that's not what I expected the circle at all to be. I don't necessarily know what I expected, but I think I expected something very focused on church situations and that, and it kind of took a step back. That in itself just gave you like an ease and a lovingness of like, okay, someone really cares. We're gonna like look at what actually does hurt you. And why is that? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It is true. The conversations that we have, the space we provide, everybody needs at some point, in some capacity. And to Joan's point, you actually held it tighter and deeper, so no one else could see it and be affected by it. And it's exhausting. And it takes so much energy. And we know something is up and we don't know what it is. And then we just feel more and more shame and sadness and anxiety and all the things. Sandy?
I think that's kind of jumping off what you just said. One of the things that has been very meaningful for me is just to be able to talk to people who understand. I've done a lot of counseling and have gotten help in a lot of things, but there is a really unique dynamic, as you all know, of what it's like to be pastor's wife. And I've had people compare it to like, well, like doctors or lawyers, or there's other maybe roles or jobs, politician, that the wife might have like a certain more fishbowl type experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a difference with being a pastor's wife, is you're actually also supposed to be part of it. Like, a doctor's wife is never going to be in the surgery and doing the work in the hospital with him, for instance. But
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways, we're a team, and there's not the supports for pastors' wives like there are with pastors. Our town has a great network of pastors. They have breakfast together once a month, and they meet from all the different congregations, and they have conferences, and those are all very wonderful and ways for my husband to be supported. And there's nobody to talk to when I have like, how do I deal with this? Or how do I like this bizarre thing, or this really hurtful experience, or joys, or any of it? Just to have other people that just know what that's like has been invaluable for me. It helps me feel really seen. And I think in ways that I haven't, and I don't know, that I haven't.
It is interesting because it's not like your husband's a surgeon and every once in a while a nurse says, "Hey, will you hold this scalpel for me? Like, can you just like, toss me
Pop
some of those
in.
gauze or, yeah, exactly." What was difficult when you first started in your circles? And is it the same sort of difficulty, or what makes it hard to kind of when it's time for circle to hop on, or when it's days before circle? What makes it difficult? Or is it difficult? Maybe it's just all joy and there's no difficulty at all. Rainbows and sunshine.
Honestly, for me, I was thinking about this question and thinking, I don't think that I personally had a lot of difficulties like joining the group, or once I made the decision to be part of it. It's risky in only the same ways as going out to lunch with somebody new would be as well. Um, I think for me, the hardest part has just been my external life, making sure that like my kids are not interrupting me. Everybody knows I'm not accessible, and not like just blocking out the time. And honestly, I have to say it's a fun excuse to not always have to be on. And my husband does dinner and all that stuff, and we switch off. But just I think making sure everything else is arranged so that I can be here and be present.
Yeah, yeah. It is. Those schedules are hard. Karen, you've experienced that.
Yeah, yeah. I often have one of my children hop on the bed and say hi, or try to go off screen so they're not super distracting. But yeah, that is tricky. I think I often try to, or I'll often minimize my experiences and think, oh, that wasn't so bad, or oh, that's not as bad as whoever. And so I think at first I was worried about opening up and feeling like, oh, this is just silly. This isn't even really a big deal. Um, but after sharing, first, like that first act of sharing is illuminating. But then for the women in my group to validate and say, yeah, that sounds really hard, or yeah, I can understand why, this was tricky, or why this felt, as big as it feels, because it is. And so to have that validation um outside of my own head um was amazing. So to go in feeling like really kind of nervous about that aspect, and just for the Lord to really turn that around and make it one of the best parts of coming to Front Porch Circle has been really cool.
I think every single person, every single storyteller is what we call you when it's your turn to share, either feels it's my story is not that bad, and so everybody's going to be judging me, or I'm going to feel lame, or I'm going to feel like I'm just complaining, or they feel like my story's so bad, everybody's going to think I'm terrible, or my life is terrible. And the reality is, especially when we're talking about developmental years, your childhood is your childhood. It is normal for you. So you have no idea if where the harm was what was hurtful or why it was hurtful, experiencing emotional pain in a moment where you don't have care for whatever reason, and there could be 1,000 reasons, you carry that with you and you live out of it. So it can look really small as an adult, but that younger Karen, it was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I really appreciate that you do, Leah, is you try to move us away from the thing or the other person and focus on the way it made us feel. And that in itself is so validating and like healing to me as an adult through, my younger self to for my experiences to be, held in the way that it felt like it needed to be.
Mm. Mm. And it is fascinating too, because it does seem difficult to describe. It is this space that we can't live in every day, all day, but we need it. We need a time to be seen, to have our experiences heard in the way we felt in that moment that has affected us and continues to affect us. It is. I have experienced that in the groups that I have worked through and been a part of, um, being shocked by what my experiences actually held for me.
So initially, well, I knew that I wanted counseling. So I knew I wanted to meet with Leah. I like one-on-one more than group things. So the word group, I was a little like, I can handle one new person at a time, but I wasn't sure if I could deal with 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Like I didn't know going into it. So I was nervous about that. I thought, how in the world would I even want to share stuff with a bunch of people like that? But from the very first meeting, it was very, as you all have said, just so validating, so nice to not have to explain what it means to be a pastor's wife and to deal with all that behind the scenes, everything, and just to really feel seen, as Sandra said, like I had never felt seen before, really, in a lot of ways. As I think now the hardest thing for me that I get nervous about before the meetings is that I won't give good enough feedback to the other people who are talking. And that's the thing, like after the group, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I should have said that. Like I kind of, because I so appreciate what everyone in the group has given to me by their feedback, and I want mine to be good as well, So I think that's the hardest thing. Everything else is just wonderful. And this is just an aside, but from the first meeting, I mean, I was like, I don't really cry. This is what I would say. I cried every single meeting. I'd be crying. I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't ever cry. It just like let loose all that stuff that I had been holding. So therapeutic, literally. So
Yes. Oh, I was thinking about that earlier, that you would always, I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Like, well,
yeah.
you are now. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joan. And it's helpful too to hear. I'm learning. I'm learning in a certification program right now, trying to learn the active group processing. And I love storytelling liturgy. I love the processing back and forth and reflection of emotion. I have been absolutely transformed myself through that, and just others reflecting what they see and what is true. And it's very impactful, has been impactful for me. And then the reflection itself tells us a lot about ourselves. Like when you are reflecting for someone else, it really does give you more insight about yourself. And we forget that, we are really wanting to provide, and as pastors' wives, like that's our MO, right? Like we want to be supporting those around us. Hadley?
I thought of a couple things. One, I would say similar, Joan, to what you said. A lot of times going into the circles, I feel really concerned about, am I bringing am I bringing enough substance of something? Am I bringing enough to give other people? Even like during it, I'll be like, okay, make sure your facial expression is like that you're like actually like you feel empathy for these people. When someone's telling you their story, you can't not hear it and be in it with them. And like you don't have to worry about like, oh, like what is my, like am I making sure I'm showing that well enough? And I think the whole group has that. And I know like Leah also guides in that well, even in being like, hey, we're here for you. Look around the circle right now. Like everybody wants to hear what you have to say. So I think there's a lot of like reframing and guidance there that makes it easier when you do come into the circle and I'm kind of overthinking it. And then other thing I was thinking is just kind of reflecting on how I came into the circle. I think I said it a little bit before, but like I didn't know exactly what it was. And I don't think I knew the self-reflection work that it was going to take. Had I known that, had I known how I feel now, 100% still always worth it to do. But it does, like, it gives you an invitation to really look at yourself. And I think there's times where, like, you do have to kind of step back from that. But there's also times where the processing and even sometimes like homework that like Leo will give you, it it is very powerful in how it can guide your thoughts and changing your mind, showing you, I like Leo always says, a truer truth. And yeah, so I think that was a unforeseen, I guess, kind of challenge more so of the circle. But I mean, definitely a rewarding one. But yeah, I mean, the work that you do, it matters, and it also is work. Both are true.
Both are true. Stitch that on a pillow. If you could describe to someone who is interested in Front Porch Circle, how would you describe to them what happens in our 2-hour monthly gathering, meeting, circle time?
The first thing that comes to my mind is being held.
Mm.
I feel like when I get to, it's like, it almost feels like a reward for like doing what we do, living life, working, parenting, doing all of the things, being a spouse at church. And it feels like a little getaway, time to relax and be held and cared for by the other women in our circle. And it's just like going to the spa.
I
That's
love
like
that.
I'm very visual. And so like to picture like I feel like I've been to the spa after I've been in the circle.
Oh,
But yeah, it's such a necessary part of being a healthy pastor's wife, I think.
I should have named it Front Porch Spa.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
We can still incorporate that.
That's
There's still
true.
time.
That's true. It might be confusing, but we'll figure it out. Sandra.
I think the first thing that came to my mind was permission, just to permission to show up however I am that day and bring whatever those deep things are that I've had to hold or can't really bring out anywhere or haven't been able to process those really deep things. And I just have like blanket permission to bring that to the other people in the group and that they're not going to leave me in the middle of the thing, that hasn't
right.
happened, whatever.
No, it won't happen.
Yeah, that they're here to listen. And I'm here to listen. And like Karen said, that support that comes from that and that being held, being seen and seeing each other is just like, I don't know, there's nothing more valuable, I think, than that.
You guys are like a Kurt Thompson infomercial because he always talks about staying in the room. You need sort of the people in your life who stay in the room. You need this opportunity to say anything, to say the worst of the worst and know these people are not leaving. they are with you. And then we've talked a lot about being seen. We have to be seen in order to be soothed so we can feel safe and secure. And that has definitely been my experience. And I've definitely seen it in your groups. Yeah.
Lewis has this great quote about needing more than our own eyes to see. And, you know, he references other people and God and that kind of thing.
Mm,
I often think about that with groups.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. Hadley, how would you explain what happens in those 2 hours a month in your circle?
I think my first thought was just more so the feeling of just a completely like emotionally, mentally safe space, and knowing that it does feel like something you kind of step into. You can kind of take a breath and know that you are okay to be completely yourself.
Hmm. I had the privilege of having lunch with Hadley a couple of weeks ago, and it was so fascinating to know her so well and love her so much. And then some of our questions, it was like, how do I not know this about you? You know,
Where are you from? Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Joan's circle, a couple of years ago, we got together, and Joan was the last to arrive. And they were all talking about how tall they thought she was. And I knew because I know Joan, but it was so funny just them talking about, some of them thought she was like 5'2", and others thought she was like taller. It was really funny. Um, Joan, how do you describe? Huh?
Oh, I was going to say I'm actually 5'11". So the
Yes,
people who thought I was 5'2", it was quite a,
they were wrong.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I mean, all the other things that people have already said, that safe space and the spa, even I've thought, especially after I've cried, you know, there's just that like cleansing thing.
yeah.
And, you know, being heard, being listened to, having questions asked, like as pastors' wives, you often do all the question asking. I don't know if you've experienced
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's really nice to have people like dig in more. I think something that stands out to me about the whole experience is how so often I and the other women in the group will say, I'm fine. There's nothing really going on. And then Leah or someone will say, well, so tell us about, you know, your week. And so then as you start talking, and then something will come up where it'll be, so how'd you feel about that? And then all of a sudden we've got this full on discussion that everyone is benefiting from this little, what you thought wasn't even anything, that caused this little reaction in you that actually wasn't so little. And then that person had a similar thing, like all those, well, connections that we talked
Mm-hmm.
about before, and reflecting. And maybe I'll say something and someone else will say, well, I really, you know, Leah will say, well, how does that make you feel, so and so? So that person will say, well, I really feel this. And then that's related to something back in their story. And it's just such an amazing experience of processing together, and that we're all benefiting from what the first person was like, nothing really, I don't have anything really important to share. So it's
There's
just
very
amazing.
little. Sometimes I'll like come up with a prompt or something, but we rarely get to it because, Hadley, what do I always ask?
How are you coming in today?
How are you coming
How
in?
we
How's
always
everybody
start.
coming in? Yeah.
It
And
doesn't get any further. Like,
yeah, it just happens. Um, Joan, as you were talking, I was just thinking neurologically, the reason it's so effective is Joan might be sharing something and Karen's brain doesn't feel protective. It's not blocking what she's feeling because it's not about her. So she feels the emotion, expresses the emotion, and then we say, Karen, what does this mean for you? What's going on inside of you right now? And there we are, boom. Like without her brain even knowing to protect itself, we are finding things that are happening in Karen that she was not aware of or had not thought of or had not known to think of, or her brain was so cautious about and had developed to protect her as a child, because that's what our brains do in beautiful ways and necessary ways. But then as an adult, we don't need that protection, but our brain doesn't know that. So it just keeps doing its thing, and we have to calm it so we can understand what's happening. But do y'all have any more thoughts about why does the wife of the pastor need this sort of freedom, need the spa, the front porch circle spa? Everyone needs this space. I have felt for years called to create something to provide this care specifically for women who are in ministry, married to the pastor. I feel that very passionately. Are there ways that we haven't mentioned that you guys feel that is true?
When you don't have that support network to carry you in that way or to talk to people in that way, the effect that it has on you is extremely isolating. You become vulnerable in not good ways, not like the sharing kind of vulnerability, but the like open to attack, or I think it weakens you as a person. You can't get the help and the support to be giving, because we're always giving, right? Like, and you have to put back into you more than just like your brain and learning. You have to put back into all that deep soul care work. And when you don't have a group to do that with, then it's just missing. It leaves us isolated, and we might have other groups that we can share pieces of ourselves with, but this is a very unique area.
There's a lot of talk about churches needing good pastors and trying to promote resilience in the local church and in its leadership. And I don't know what we're doing if we're not supporting the most important relationships in his life. And I know my husband would say that he didn't always navigate that well. And if there's a problem in my marriage and he is wanting to own his role by himself without including other people, where does that leave me? Like, how am I supposed to get care that I need or try to get care for us in our relationship when he is so determined to present in such a way that there is no way you can have brokenness or be vulnerable? And these are the people that are sitting under his teaching. These are the people that are under his spiritual care. That also is very difficult. You want to be sensitive in that way. You want to be cautious about his calling.
I think a lot of churches, and I wouldn't say it's everybody, but I think a lot of pastors' wives it actually is a role, just like the pastor is. But it comes with no job description, no feedback, no chain of command to like say, hey, I'm having a problem and need support. You're just like on your own, expected to like figure it all out and read everyone's minds, which you'd never expect anyone anywhere to do that in a way that would lead to anything helpful. But that's what many pastors' wives are thrown into, and we need support on so many levels for that.
And many parishioners would have different lists of priorities for the pastor's wife, and they would all be jumbled. If you take 5 things you want from her, and everybody would prioritize them differently. So,
and it might not actually matter what you're gifted in. You do it anyway, right?
That's
like
right.
Different than maybe the pastor might have a little bit more. My calling. Well, my calling maybe not is to not fill all the cracks.
Preach. Yeah.
You can edit that part out.
No, I probably won't. I'm probably going to leave it. Hadley, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think that actually it ties in well to just what you were saying about being your full self, because I think for someone considering this, a comfort for me has really been the anonymity of the circle, because it has given me that place to feel like I can be my full self and know that the people here really do want to hear what you're saying and are here to support you. And, while they understand like feelings and like the dynamics, they also don't know all of the stuff and all of the people going on. So you feel like you can talk freely, the things that you wouldn't otherwise say. And I think those are, a lot of the times the things that are weighing heavy on us and,
Mm.
maybe in some ways kind of like binding us. And so there's a lot of freedom in getting to know a group of people and feeling safe with them, but also knowing that they're not, part of your everyday circle.
Mm. Mm. Joan.
Yeah, well, where we live, the Christian community, the longer we're here, the smaller it gets, with people. And so before I found Front Porch Circle, I knew I needed some sort of counseling or something. So I did go to a Christian counseling place. But the woman did not understand the whole pastor's wife dynamic. She thought I was like, she started kind of attacking like that my husband was the problem. I'm like, wait, that's actually not helpful. So, because that wasn't actually the real problem. But also then I found out that one of the other counselors there was the cross country coach at my kids' Christian school. Like Leah was saying, people here, your pastor's wife is going to counseling. There are people who might think, well, what's going on? Is their marriage falling apart? Is there la 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 la?
It is helpful to just be able to say some things out loud. I mean, sometimes you guys you'll say, I really am confused about this. And you start talking about it and you're saying it out loud and then you figure it all out. Like we're just all watching. and once you just start saying it out loud, and it comes back to the part of your brain that you're using. You're starting to bring it to the front of your brain where you can put words to it and apply logic and reason. But it all just sits there in the back of our brain in our limbic system if we don't do that. And then we just feel it all. We just feel all of the everything. And none of it makes sense.
I think for most people who attend a church, they get to just come and be themselves at church. And we don't necessarily get to have that in that same way. And so all of our relationships are sprinkled with this uniqueness. And our spouse's work is the same place we worship, and it's the same place that he pastor. Like all of the worlds are in one spot. And so to not have that anonymity necessarily, and like people I work with at, my job, like I can have different kinds of conversations in some ways. And so to be able to come here and for everyone to understand, and I mean, and again, I'll like speak for my congregation. They're wonderful, loving people.
Mm-hmm.
They will do all they can to understand, but there's just something that can't be understood, like being, alone with my 3 children in the row at church every single Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That is hard. It's just a different level of almost loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
which feels like even almost extra hard that you feel lonely in the place that you should not feel lonely. I don't have to go to arm's lengths or whatever to be understood, and for somebody to be able to sit in my shoes because they are in my shoes every Sunday morning at 9:00. You know what I mean?
Anybody else have more words about loneliness now that Karen brought it up?
In addition, it's every church event, it's every funeral, it's every wedding. Everybody's there and I'm watching on my own. And I think in a lot of ways I'm a pretty independent person and I'm okay with that. But the once in a while my husband and I get to do like a dinner together with somebody. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Like you really bring out better things in me. And like Karen said, we have a great community in church and everyone loves us. And I mean, maybe not, but everyone's very supportive and kind and all of that stuff. But
yeah.
And which is such a gift because we haven't always had that. And that has been very meaningful. At the same time, it still doesn't eliminate the doing everything on your own.
And if you can't name the loneliness, if you don't have others who validate that experience, that sensation that you feel, then you start to feel guilt for that. You do feel like you're complaining and you feel like it's horrid to feel lonely, especially when you're surrounded by so many people that you love. But that doesn't take the loneliness away. I know there are women married to pastors out there who could benefit from Front Porch Circle. And I know lots of them don't know about it. I know lots of them are terrified to sign up. I know lots of them don't want to need. Any final thoughts?
I'm just so, so thankful that the Lord provided this for me. It has changed so much of my life, my marriage, my kids have benefited, my friendships, I mean, it's just, yeah, I can't even express how thankful I am for it. So,
I think another gift is that everyone's in different stages of their ministry, to learn from people who have gone before and done this longer, as well as being able to turn and offer to somebody who's early in things like, oh my gosh, I wish somebody had said this to me, or offered like, you're not crazy. Or
Yeah.
it is hard. It is, whatever the validation is, to just be able to, you know, share something that I had to learn a hard way to somebody
Mm,
who's starting out or earlier in things, or has young kids and things.
mm.
And I would echo what Joan said. This has been a life-changing group, and thank you so much for starting this, Leah, and having a vision for it.
Thank the Lord. He put it in my mind, in my kitchen one day.
I would just echo what Sandy and Joan have said. This has been just such a unique space. There's nothing else like it, and I don't know where I would be without it.
I'm glad. Thank you. Well, Hadley, do you have anything to say? I mean, I am loving this commercial. So,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I, I mean, as all have said, genuinely a life-changing, very rewarding, extremely like beneficial, um, group to be a part of, and also as someone who feels, like knowingly kind of cautious or scared to step into a more vulnerable group, or just a group of other people, a community, and share. I would say this is like the least intimidating way to step into a group like this, and truly, like, I think the most, as far as like a group of people that I've been a part of, that I, had, were strangers at first, like I've never felt more safe or loved or seen or cared for, as I have in Front Porch Circle. So, and love you, Leah, so much.
oh, I love
Just
you
appreciate you.
too. Well, I love you all. And thank you so much for your willingness to share, and keep praying. I'm hoping to start some new groups. I don't know really how to end this. Thank you, ladies, so much. Really great to be with you, and I'll see you soon.